Earlier this year, I ordered a custom Pegasus 38 using Nike by You. When I received it, I thought it looked great, but I didn't love running in it. And so I've ordered another Pegasus 38, this time a standard colorway right off the shelf, to see, did I get a defective custom, or is there a bigger problem with the Pegasus 38? It's time to lace up both of these shoes and take them for a run. .53 miles, 8 minutes, 30 seconds per mile, 146 beats per minute today. Going for a first run in a brand new pair of Peg 38s right off the shelf, a standard colorway. So I can compare it against the Peg 38 custom that I had ordered earlier this year. Now, before I give you my thoughts on these two shoes, I do want to go over some disclosures. Both of these shoes were shoes I purchased myself. No one sent them to me or is paying me to make this video. And no one's going to get a chance to preview any of my footage or my thoughts before you guys get a chance to see this video on YouTube. So with that disclosure out of the way, let's talk about the Peg 38 and the Peg 38. Let's get to some stats. As far as the stats go, the stats are the same on both of these shoes. The only things that you're really customizing with the Nike by You is some of the aesthetic choices, although you have a couple of different options that may affect performance as you're going through them, and we'll go over all of that too. As far as the stack heights go, there's a couple of different numbers that are getting thrown around the internet there. Most people seem to say that this is a 33 millimeter stack height shoe. Some people are saying 27.5. Fleet Feet saying that this is a 24 millimeter stack height shoe in the heel, giving it only 14 millimeters of stack height in the forefoot if Fleet Feet is correct. But I think I'm gonna go with the 33 millimeter number. It's coming from a couple of sources that I tend to find reliable and that I typically rely on for researching some of these numbers. With that 10 millimeter, and everyone seems to agree that it's a 10 millimeter drop, that 10 millimeter drop gives you 23 millimeters of stack height in the forefoot. And what you've got in this midsole is React midsole foam, which is a foam that Nike has been using with great success in their running shoes. And there's a giant Zoom air bubble in the forefoot. This setup is the exact same setup that we saw last year in the Pegasus 37, so there's nothing new here. All the updates for the Pegasus 38 are in the upper. And as far as the upper goes, the main differences between the two shoes, the standard version and the one that I had customized, I went with speed laces for mine. I also changed the outsole. Instead of the standard outsole, I went with a waffle pattern for the rubber because I thought that was kind of fun and a little bit of a retro option. There's some different colors that I've picked. That's like the main difference between these two shoes. And also there is a little patch on the back that you can customize. On the standard version, there's just no patch on the back there at all. Also, the weight on these both came in at the same weight. Again, the weights are varying depending on where you look on the internet. But what I found is all the numbers that I found that are citing the weight are heavier than the numbers that I got on my scale. My scale brought both of these shoes at the same weight, 9.6 ounces, or in the low 270s in terms of grams. So what was it like to run in these two shoes? First, let's talk a little bit about the experience that I had with the custom Peg 38. I felt like it had definitely a very good Pegasus feel to it. There's like a signature Pegasusness that I've gotten to know over the past several years of running in the variety of iterations of the Pegasus. A pretty snug toe box, very snug all throughout the upper, but ultimately a very capable daily trainer. The only problem was for me, after a relatively short amount of distance, I started getting a lot of discomfort under the pads of my right foot. It didn't happen in both my foot, but in the right foot especially, it just got really uncomfortable. It starts out as a hot spot and then it turns into like there's some pain under there. And I generally found myself wanting to find some softer surfaces to run on because running on pavement, cement, concrete just got to be too painful. And that was very different than the Pegasus 37 that I also ran in last year, and that had the same type of midsole configuration. So it was a little bit confusing in terms of why I was getting all of a sudden this foot pain. Now, let's compare that to the run that I went on in the Peg 38, the standard version. So for that Peg 38 standard version, immediately once I put on that shoe, I could tell a difference. It felt much more comfortable in terms of just the step-in comfort already. Everything felt much more plush. Everything just felt a little bit softer as I was walking around in the shoe. And then when I started running, I felt like I had a lot more underfoot in terms of cushioning that was absorbing impact from the road with each step. So I preferred immediately the feeling that was there. I felt like I was able to get in a good easy speed and just kind of lock in and have a nice pleasant run right away with the regular Peg 38, and I was just having a good time running in it. And for the entire run, I didn't find any problems with that Peg 38, at least underfoot at all, and instead I had a really good running experience with it. I feel like the Zoom Air Pocket was doing a good job of absorbing impact in the forefoot, and I tend to land a little bit more towards the forefoot. And then overall, the React foam in there does a great job of, when it does get compressed, bouncing back up and helping you get through that foot strike. So I felt like the two things were working very well together. It didn't feel like a shoe with two things in the midsole. It just felt like a really great midsole system. It did feel like it was a little bit, well, heavy's not the right word for it. I felt like the size of the shoe, I feel like this is like a big shoe. It's a tall stack height shoe in my opinion, and it just feels like there's a lot there. And when you're running with the shoe, you kind of notice that there's heft to it, but it's not heavy. So whatever weight it has, it's carrying it well, to borrow a euphemism. So I felt like this is a great shoe that's going to be an all-arounder that you're going to be able to use for a lot of your runs, even for workouts. And for me, I think I'd probably use this for anything that's like a medium length run. So probably anything shorter than a half marathon is going to be fine for this shoe, and it's going to do a great job. And if you've got some speed work on the roads, I feel like the shoe is going to be able to handle it really well. I think for like some of the very, very fast stuff, if you're doing like 200-meter repeats, something like that, that's where you might want something that's a little bit more specifically designed for speed. But if you're looking for a shoe that can do a lot of things, this is definitely one to pick up. Now let's compare it to the Peg 38 Custom. I did go for a run on it the following day after I ran in the standard Pegasus 38, just to refresh my recollection as to what was going on in this shoe, to remind myself, why did I go through the trouble of ordering a second Pegasus? And for the first couple of miles, I was like, I feel like the Peg 38 Custom is a little bit different, but maybe that's just the difference in the outsole, and the rubber material feels a little bit softer. I think it's just like maybe a millimeter shorter, or just a tiny amount shorter. So I thought maybe that's all it is. And I wondered, is really that what I was complaining about? Then I hit about at the 2 1/4 mark for today. I started getting a little bit of a hot spot underneath the right foot, right under the pads of the foot, pretty much right here. That's right where I started to feel it. And I just kept running because I thought, you know what? I've now spent 2 days in a row looking for foot pain in my right foot. And I wondered, maybe this is one of those things where you're going to find what you're looking for. So I kept running. Not that I was going to stop. I had to run home. It was an out and back route. So I had to continue running anyway. But continuing along with this run, by the time I hit the 5K mark, I felt there's definitely something going on with the shoe. There's something wrong with it. It doesn't feel good underfoot. I'm feeling a lot of discomfort. I'm not imagining it. And then not even a mile later, once I got to like the 4 1/3 mile mark, I definitely found myself looking for softer surfaces, getting off the pavement, getting onto the crushed limestone, getting into the grass, just finding some way of trying to find comfort and relief for the pain that I was feeling underfoot. So there's definitely something different with this custom Peg 38 that makes it not right. There's something wrong with it. This regular Peg 38, I'm really enjoying. This is a shoe that like reminds me of why I've been loving the Pegasus for about half a decade now. And it's something anecdotally that I've kind of heard other people commenting when I made the video about, you know, I think I'm having some problems with my particular custom, that sometimes there's quality control issues that happen with the custom Nike shoes. I don't know if that's true or not. I haven't done any research. I haven't gotten any sort of statement from Nike. So at this point, what I'm probably gonna do is try and figure out a way to cut this open and see if I can get to that Zoom Air pocket to see if it's popped or not. I've tried cutting open shoes before. I'm really bad at it. So the trick is going to be to try to kind of get to the Zoom Air pocket without puncturing the Zoom Air pocket. And you know, I'm not super confident, but we'll see if we can do that. And then I will continue testing in this version of the Pegasus 38 as far as putting miles in a Pegasus to see how they're doing for 2021. So hit the subscribe button if you want to see any of those adventures or misadventures as those videos start to hit the internet. That's all I have for today, everybody. Thanks so much for making it all the way to the end of the video. Hopefully you guys are staying safe out there on your runs, and I'll see you in the next one.
Oh, what's going on?